Counting on Jim Bob Duggar, accused of starving children. Counting on alum Jim Bob Duggar continues to face controversies despite stepping away from social media. The 58-year-old reportedly supports the defense of his imprisoned son Josh, who was arrested for CSAM in April 2021. Since then, many people have surfaced trying to expose his dark secrets, including some of his kids. But a new discovery from Reddit made people realize that he may have starved his children back then. Keep reading to see why. Counting on. How's Jim Bob Duggar today? Jim Bob no longer posts updates about his family like he used to. However, the Counting on alum still appears at some of their family get-togethers and other occasions. In May, the Duggar family patriarch visited Joy-Anna to celebrate the birthday of his grandson, Gunnar James. Many were also surprised that Jim Bob is still in touch with his daughter despite her decision to step away from their beliefs. Jana also shared a clip from their family lunch during Mother's Day featuring a healthy-looking Jim Bob. He also showed a big smile to the cameras, indicating that he's still living happily despite all the criticisms about his family. Jim Bob accused of starving children. Some Redditors discussed a new discovery from 2001 about Jim Bob spending over $250,000 on a hopeless primary for the Senate. According to the poster, the Counting on alum could have spent the money on his family, who were heavily struggling with food at the time. The Reddit user added that Jim Bob Duggar could have even bought a bigger house back then and provided healthy meals for his kids. The poster even recalled that Jill used to sneak off foods and secretly eat them in the bathroom, showing how bad their food management was back in the day. It was also revealed that the $250,000 was all his own money, and none of it came from donations. You know what kind of house you could have bought in 2001 for $250K? But God, how do these older kids talk to their parents? The abuse is a whole other animal. To save that much and not use it to house and feed all those children is not what Jesus had in mind, especially using it for political gain. I hope in the afterlife the entity known as Jesus pops in to personally tell them they got it very wrong. Ick, I like visual. He should bring a trans soul with him and walk up hand in hand to deliver this blow. Lovingly, of course. They never should have had AF show. And those at TLC should have reported them to child services. So many people failed those children. The story about the green beans is so sad. I don't begrudge families that eat canned veggies, many must, but the fact that she felt the need to hide it when she needed something to eat. Counting on. Jinger Duggar may put Jim Bob on the corner again. It also appears that Jim Bob is about to face new challenges next year. It was reported that Jinger Duggar Vuolo will release a new book sometime in 2025 titled People Pleaser. Breaking free from the burden of imaginary expectations, which aims to uncover her decision not to live her life based on other people's expectations. The memoir will also feature the Counting on alum's life from childhood to early adulthood, which may provide shocking details about how Jim Bob and Michelle raised their kids. Jinger Duggar shares shocking superstition of family. In a recent and unexpected revelation, Jinger Duggar Vuolo opened up about a deeply rooted superstition within the Duggar family that has left many fans of the former 19 Kids and Counting star stunned. Known for their strict conservative Christian upbringing, the Duggars have long been in the public eye due to both their unique lifestyle and the controversies that have surrounded them over the years. However, this latest disclosure by Jinger, once one of the more private members of the family, has sparked a wave of reactions from fans, critics, and religious scholars alike. According to Jinger, her family's belief system was not only governed by religious doctrine, but also by an array of unspoken, superstitious rules that bordered on the bizarre. During a candid interview with a Christian podcast, Jinger revealed that certain numbers, phrases, and even clothing items were strictly avoided within the Duggar household. These weren't just preferences or cultural norms, they were treated as spiritual mandates, often enforced with a sense of fear and urgency. One of the most shocking revelations was the family's deep-seated fear of the number 13. While many people are familiar with triskaidekaphobia, the fear of the number 13, this phobia was taken to an extreme within the Duggar household. According to Duggar, the number 13 was considered evil and associated with rebellion, misfortune, and even demonic influence. This belief was so ingrained that the family went out of their way to avoid anything related to the number. For example, they never scheduled important events on the 13th of any month, and if a child was born on the 13th, it was met with concern and prayer. Even more surprising was how this played into the naming of their children. The Duggar kids were numbered rather than named individually. However, when it came time to name their 13th child, the family reportedly hesitated. "We didn't name our 13th sibling right away," Duggar recalled. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of prayer. Mom and Dad were worried about what it might mean spiritually. Eventually, the child was named Johanna, but the delay and apprehension surrounding the naming process highlight the extent to which superstition influenced major family decisions. The fear of the number 13 extended to the dreaded Friday the 13th, a date that many consider unlucky. But for the Duggars, this day was treated like a curse. Duggar shared that the family would avoid traveling, making big purchases, or engaging in any activity that could be interpreted as tempting fate on these days. In fact, she said her parents would often cancel plans altogether, opting instead to stay home and pray for protection. "We didn't talk about it much, it was just understood," Duggar explained. "You didn't bring up Friday the 13th unless you wanted to make someone uncomfortable. It was almost like we were afraid saying it out loud would summon something bad." This behavior is reminiscent of ancient pagan rituals and folklore, where certain dates and numbers were believed to hold mystical power. Yet coming from a family that publicly espoused a strict interpretation of Christianity, the presence of such superstitions seems paradoxical. Another eerie detail Duggar shared involved the breaking of mirrors. She described how her parents taught the children that breaking a mirror brought 7 years of bad luck, not just metaphorically, but spiritually and physically. "If a mirror broke in our house, it was a huge deal," Duggar said. "We had to immediately clean it up, say a prayer, and sometimes even fast for a day to break the curse." She added that her mother, Michelle Duggar, once made the entire family fast after a large mirror fell and shattered during a renovation project. "It wasn't just about being careful," Duggar recalled. "It was about spiritual warfare. They believed evil forces were trying to get in through those broken pieces." Psychologists note that such beliefs can stem from a desire to control outcomes in uncertain situations. In the case of the Duggars, who lived under intense scrutiny and pressure, these superstitions may have served as a way to maintain a sense of order and divine favor. Beyond numbers and dates, Duggar also revealed that the family had specific rules about clothing, particularly colors. While modesty standards were already a cornerstone of their faith-based lifestyle, some color choices were avoided entirely due to their supposed spiritual connotations. "Black was okay because it was considered humble," Duggar explained. "But red was tricky. My mom believed red could attract negative attention spiritually and otherwise." She went on to say that wearing red was discouraged, especially during times of spiritual sensitivity, such as fasting periods or during church services. "If you wore red on a day when we were praying for protection, it was like asking for trouble," she said. These restrictions extended to other colors as well. Purple, for instance, was associated with royalty and pride, so it was rarely worn except on special occasions. Green was generally acceptable, but only in certain shades. Dark green was preferred, while bright neon greens were thought to be too flashy and distracting. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the family superstitions, according to Duggar, was the belief in the power of spoken words, both good and bad. The Duggars believed that blessings and curses could be invoked simply by speaking them aloud. This idea that words have power isn't totally foreign in Christian circles, Duggar acknowledged. But in our family, it was taken to another level. For example, if someone said something negative like jokingly wishing someone bad luck, it was believed that the statement could manifest itself in reality. As a result, the children were trained from a young age to monitor their speech constantly. Even compliments were handled with caution. Duggar recalled a time when her father refused to compliment her appearance directly. He'd say things like, "I'm grateful for your health," instead of "you look pretty." He didn't want to draw attention to vanity or invite envy. This practice echoes ancient magical thinking, where naming something was believed to give it power. In modern psychology, this is known as the law of similarity, and the law of contagion principles found in early human belief systems that predate organized religion. One of the biggest questions raised by Duggar's revelations is how these superstitions coexisted with the family's strong commitment to Christianity. After all, the Duggars were prominent figures in the Quiverful movement, a fundamentalist Christian ideology that emphasizes having large families and rejecting birth control. So how do they reconcile beliefs that seemed more aligned with paganism or folk magic with their professed faith? Duggar suggested that her parents saw these practices as ways to protect the family from spiritual harm. They believed God gave us signs and warnings, she said. And if we ignored them, we were being disobedient. This mindset is not uncommon among certain strands of fundamentalist Christianity, where literal interpretations of Scripture and a focus on end-times theology can lead to heightened anxiety about spiritual threats. In such environments, superstitions can act as coping mechanisms, ways to feel in control in a world perceived as increasingly dangerous and unpredictable. While Duggar admitted that some of these practices were meant to instill discipline and reverence, she also acknowledged the emotional toll they took on the children. "I remember feeling scared a lot of the time," she confessed. "Like I could mess up spiritually just by saying the wrong thing or stepping on the wrong date." This kind of constant vigilance can contribute to anxiety disorders, obsessive-compulsive tendencies, and a general lack of autonomy, experts say. Children raised in highly controlled environments often struggle with decision-making and self-confidence later in life. Yet despite the challenges, Duggar emphasized that many of the values she learned growing up, like hard work, family loyalty, and faith, are ones she still holds dear today. Now a mother herself, Duggar says she and her husband, Jeremy Vuolo, are raising their daughter differently. "We still believe in God and follow Jesus, but we're not passing on the same fears," she said. Instead, they focus on creating a loving, open environment where their child feels free to explore the world without fear of invisible curses or spiritual traps. "I don't want my daughter to grow up believing she's doomed if she steps on a crack or wears red," Duggar laughed. "That's not the kind of freedom I want for her." Her comments have resonated with many former homeschool graduates and individuals raised in strict religious households who are now navigating the balance between honoring their upbringing and forging their own paths. Unsurprisingly, Duggar's revelations have ignited a firestorm of commentary across social media and news platforms. Some fans expressed shock and disappointment, questioning whether these practices align with authentic Christian teachings. Others, however, defended the family's right to privacy and spiritual expression, noting that every family has its quirks, even ones that seem strange from the outside. Religious scholars have weighed in as well, sparking conversations about the emotional toll of early motherhood and the pressure to conform to certain ideals. Despite these challenges, the Duggars continue to present a united front. They emphasize prayer, counseling, and mutual support within the family as ways to navigate difficult times. However, critics argue that without addressing the root causes of structure, such as unrealistic expectations around pregnancy and submission, these solutions are only temporary fixes. As society continues to evolve, so too do attitudes toward gender roles, reproductive rights, and family planning. What may have been acceptable or even praised in earlier decades is now being re-examined in light of modern understandings of health, consent, and equality. The Duggar family, once celebrated for their commitment to traditional values, now finds itself at odds with many contemporary viewers. Younger audiences, in particular, are less likely to accept unquestioningly the idea that women must prioritize pregnancy and childbearing above all else. Instead, there is a growing demand for stories that reflect diverse experiences and empower individuals to make informed choices. This shift in cultural norms has led to increased scrutiny of shows like. While the Duggars are free to live according to their beliefs, there is a growing consensus that media platforms have a responsibility to highlight a broader range of perspectives. Some fans have suggested that the show should include more discussions about consent, reproductive health, and emotional well-being topics that have largely been absent from the narrative thus far. Ultimately, the revelation of strict pregnancy rules within the Duggar family has sparked a wide range of reactions. Some fans remain loyal, appreciating the family's transparency and commitment to their faith. Others, however, are choosing to distance themselves, citing ethical concerns and a desire for more inclusive storytelling. What remains clear is that the Duggar family continues to be a lightning rod for discussion around religion, gender roles, and personal freedom. Whether viewers agree with their choices or not, the conversation they inspire is a testament to the power of media to shape perceptions and challenge societal norms. As moves forward, it will be interesting to see how the family addresses these concerns both publicly and privately. Will they adapt to changing times, or will they double down on tradition? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the Duggar family is not done making headlines.